couple of guys in a couple of different countries have a couple of beers and discuss a stadium somewhere in the world and their experiences there. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And we are excited to be with you here again tonight. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to the Stadium Journey YouTube channel, like the video, and leave comments. We like to be interactive. The official Stadium Journey review of today's venue can be found at stadiumjourney.com, and the link can be found in the comments below. So let's get rolling. Dave, what are you drinking today?
So today it's a hockey topic, and I got myself a hockey beer, maybe the ultimate hockey beer. So, you know, most Canadians would say that, well, the ultimate hockey beer is, of course, Molson Canadian. It's the sponsor of Hockey Night in Canada, but no way. I'm going with a microbrewery that was, of course, now not a microbrewery anymore. It's a macrobrewery, and they have their own hockey team. So from New Brunswick, former owners of the Halifax Mooseheads, I have a classic Moosehead lager.
Nice. I always liked Moosehead back in the day.
Yeah, but I'm not big on cans, and finding bottles is now a thing.
You know, there is a great debate out there. Maybe that's for another show. Cans versus bottles. How do you prefer your beer?
I'm totally bottle.
I've always been a draft guy. Whenever you give me a choice between A and B, I'll pick C. I won't lie. So as for myself, we went up to the great state of Maine a few weekends ago, and when we were there, anyone who's ever been to Portland, Maine, know that there's a ton of fantastic craft breweries up there. So we stopped by one of them, and I picked up, let's get the glare off the can, there you go, a Shipyard Summer Ale. Fantastic summer beer, one of my favorites. So that's what I got tonight. If we were visiting today's destination, we might be drinking a Red Lightsaber from Brewheim, because today we are going to talk about the Honda Center, home of the Anaheim Ducks. Don't call them mighty. Before we dive in, let's take a look at the Stadium Vitals. So let's see. Let's go back to the 90s when the movie The Mighty Ducks came out, and Disney was awarded an NHL expansion franchise, and they decided to tie it in to the movie. And that was met with a lot of ridicule across the hockey world. And in fact, when the expansion draft was held, 2 Providence Bruins were actually selected in the expansion draft. So Tim Sweeney and Peter Doris. And we actually went to one of the season ticket holder events shortly after they were selected. So they knew they were going to be on the Ducks. So this might have been over the summertime. And my buddy actually had an Anaheim Mighty Ducks hat, had them both sign it. And so his question to them, of course, was, so when you guys are asked, does this mean that you have to quack like the kids in the movie? And the response from both of them was, no. So thankfully for us hockey purists, if you happen to be one, the Mighty Ducks didn't quite end up as cartoony as the movie, or as people were afraid they were going to be. They did have some nice tie-ins to the movies, and they did do some flashy stuff that would seem tame by Vegas Golden Knights standards today. But they ushered in kind of a different era in hockey in the NHL. And I guess central to that was their home, the Honda Center.
Well, you know, it's funny that you say you're talking about old school hockey guys and being contrary to the idea of the Mighty Ducks in the movie and whatnot. But I'll tell you who wasn't contrary. Gary Bettman and the rest of the owners. Because the money was rolling in with and I think that Disney really made expansion happen, because I don't think the NHL was really jumping to do expansion at that point. But when they found out Disney was interested, they suddenly were interested in expansion.
Yeah, because they had done a little bit of limited expansion, like the San Jose Sharks, I think came along a year or two before.
Yeah.
But it wasn't this boom that happened after the Ducks.
Yeah.
The Ducks came in with the Senators, maybe?
I think the Ducks came in with the Panthers.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
because the Senators came in with the Lightning.
Okay, but anyway, whole bunch of teams ended up coming in.
But with that, with the Ducks coming in, and maybe, and you could argue about whether or not it was the Sharks that really pushed the envelope or whether it was the Ducks. Maybe the Sharks sort of let it off, but the Ducks came with this sort of really different colors, not traditional hockey colors. They had the eggplant and the kind of aqua, well, more of a teal, I guess, than the Sharks did. But their merchandise flew off the shelves. So, these old crusty hockey guys are like, well, the Mighty Ducks, rah, 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 rah. Like, okay, that's all good until you're, seeing the numbers of zeros that are happening on the checks, right? And we've talked about this before. The Ducks are one of the reasons why the Islanders came up with that kooky rebrand, because the Islanders saw, well, look at the money that the Sharks are making on merchandise and look at the money that the Ducks are making on merchandise. So we need to get some kooky colors and we need to change things up a bit. And then we ended up with the fish sticks and Captain Highliner and probably one of the darkest eras in hockey history. But and it's funny, you said that your beer today was from Maine, and I immediately, when I hear Maine, I think of the Mighty Ducks, because when I think of Maine and the Mighty Ducks, I think of Paul Kariya, who played at the University of Maine, was the very first amateur draft pick of the Ducks, and he was really the first superstar that the Ducks had, right? And he's the kind of guy that me personally I liked. He's a smaller guy, he's a faster guy. He wasn't big and slow and lumbering and bruising and whatnot. And they made it to the Stanley Cup final. Like, I'm not talking about when they won as the Anaheim Ducks, but they went to the Stanley Cup final as the Mighty Ducks. And I'm pretty sure they lost to, I want to say New Jersey. Was that a New Jersey year? Because I think
you're right.
I think Scott Stevens put a big hit on Kariya and kind of knocked him around, and But anyway, the Honda Center even had, to me, this is a little bit unfortunate. They had one of the greatest names for a hockey arena ever before it was the Honda Center. They were the Arrowhead Pond, and just that idea of being the pond. But I think probably the biggest mistake we make is thinking of Anaheim as Los Angeles. And no matter what the Angels try and tell us, Anaheim's not Los Angeles. They're completely different places. California, absolutely. Southern California, absolutely. But Anaheim is not Los Angeles.
As someone who has taken the drive from Los Angeles to Anaheim for a game, I can absolutely agree with you. I think it's about a 40-mile drive, 45 miles. I think it took us 2.5 hours.
Yeah, gotta love Los Angeles traffic, right? Oh, it's horrible.
And yeah, you had mentioned merchandise before, and I've got to tell you, one of the things when I visited, this was just before everything shut down. So we visited in January of 2020, and what I was looking forward to the most, and I think my kids were watching from Massachusetts, was the store and what kind of merchandise are they going to have in the store? Are they still going to have that Disney tie-in? And I've got to tell you, the Anaheim Ducks store did not disappoint. And having kids who grew up with the Mighty Ducks cartoon and everything, I know I brought back a couple of those plastic goalie duck masks, and
right.
And they were very well received. So, but any kind of thing you wanted, they did have jerseys and T-shirts from the movie. Like you could get a Goldberg T-shirt or jersey and so forth, or an Adam Banks. So all that stuff was there. Did not disappoint in that regard.
And I think the fear that it was going to be cheesy and cartoony, and it was a little bit, but I can't remember what the mascot's name is now.
Wild Wing.
Wild Wing, right? Wild Wing is as good a mascot as anything else, right? They're it's not that different, but the jerseys didn't look too kooky. They kind of started that odd stripe, that kind of triangle in the end, which teams like St. Louis and Calgary and the Islanders took to the next level, where they made their numbers all kooky to go with those stripes, which I really hated. But it was a smart look, and Brian Burke, the general manager, came in once Disney sold and the new owners, the Samuelis, came in, and he was really adamant about getting rid of the whole Mighty Ducks thing and changing everything and going to the Ducks and the new kind of foot logo that they have, and changing the colors and all that. And I think the only reason it stuck around really is that they were successful and that they won that Stanley Cup with Chris Pronger and Rob Niedermeyer and Scott Niedermeyer and those guys, Teemu Selanne. Otherwise, I think we would be seeing a lot more of the eggplant and the teal.
And they do bring it back from time to time, but yeah, they really moved on. And I kind of like the webbed D. I think that's kind of a neat way to incorporate ducks. How do you make a duck tough? You don't make a duck tough, but it's a pretty creative way to integrate the name and the animal. So
yeah.
So what do you remember about visiting the center? I can tell you what I remember. Two things really stood out to me when I visited there. One was the most intrusive entry search this side of Manchester, New Hampshire.
Wow.
They really enforce their rules about what you can and cannot bring in to the place. Now, I happen to be doing a stadium journey review. So back a year and a half ago, I finally retired it at your insistence, Dave. I had my little point and shoot camera, the little Nikon deal. So they would not let me bring that camera in because it had a flash.
But you could probably bring your phone in.
But I had my phone, and that was my point. Phone has a better flash than this stupid little camera.
Yeah.
So I had to walk all the way back, and they wouldn't let Pam bring in her pocketbook either, which was not an undersized pocketbook. Pocketbook just the same. They only allow wristlets for the ladies. So
that's happening more and more. We had that at UCLA when we were on that trip.
Yeah, so I think that's more the norm now, but at the time we were like, what the hell? So I had to trudge back out to the parking lot and bring everything back. And then when we got inside, the coldest concourse I think I've ever been on. The seating area where the rink wasn't that cold, but on the concourse, man, they had the AC cranked to 11. It's not Spinal Tap would say. And we actually went there. It was January, but it was a nice hot day. It was in the 80s. It was probably like 85 degrees. And we walked inside, and I'm in shorts and a hockey jersey, and I'm frozen. And we actually went into the rink to warm up.
Yeah, the Honda Center to me is it fits right in with so many other places, and we've talked about it before. You get kind of the cookie cutter in hockey arenas, and they're not all that different. And there's nothing that really jumps out as being unique for the Honda Center. Truth be told, I had really kind of low expectations for it. Anything I read, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't in the top third or anything like that. So I walked in, I was pleasantly surprised. The concourses were very well lit.
Yeah, they were very bright. Yeah,
and they were very clean, and it wasn't difficult to get around. The interior of the seating bowl, what it is. It was like so many others.
It was kind of playing on the inside. Yeah.
Yeah, a few banners. I think Paul Correa and Teemu Selanne and
Niedermeyer.
Is it Scott Niedermeyer or is it Pronger?
Niedermeyer.
Okay. Pronger's not. Oh, you're right. And Pronger's not far behind, because I did read that in Brian Burke's book. A couple of things, of course, it's natural, and I'm sure you did the same. You went to Staples to see Kings.
Yes, we did.
We did that on that trip too, so it's natural to kind of compare the two. To me, the concessions were so much better at the Honda Center than they were at Staples. Yes, I did not find the concessions that good in Staples. In Honda Center, there was more variety, I felt.
And it was Southern California too. They had good items like tacos and some local stuff, and not just the bland, as our colleague Andrew Kulik calls it, stadium dreck.
Yeah, ballpark dreck, right? And I guess the other big difference that I saw was the fans really surprised me. So now when we went to Staples first. Our actually first game of that trip was a Kings game, and it surprised me how upbeat it was and how the fans were really involved. Because when you're an East Coast guy, and even though the Kings had won a few times, and they had Gretzky and whatnot, I still can't shake this memory of the Triple Crown line playing in front of 30 people, and it just being quiet and not a big deal. It's hockey, it's California. So the crowd was really into the Kings game. It was rocking. The Ducks game, they were pretty laid back. We had a sellout, quote unquote, one of those sellouts where you're looking around going, how come all those seats are empty? This is a sellout. And it wasn't like in a library, or it wasn't like where you're talking about going some of those university games where the students are sitting there with their books doing their homework or whatever. It was a professional hockey atmosphere, but it was just laid back. It was kind of one of the things I did get there was I got one of those duck kazoos that they had in the playoffs. The people around us were super nice, and they were talking about how they gave those out at one of the playoff games, and it just sounded crazy. Everybody was buzzing on these kazoos, and would have been something to see. I would have loved to have been there for that.
Yeah, the team is in kind of a downward trend right now, so the some of the shine has gone off the place. But it'll be interesting to see if the energy comes back when the team improves again, because both Southern California teams are bringing up the rear in the standings right now. So
yeah, right now for sure. But who would have thought, in 1990 or whatever, or 93, would you say that in 30 years, Southern California would have 3 Stanley Cup championships and a couple other appearances, right? I wouldn't guess that.
No kidding. Yeah.
I guess the other thing that we tend to compare is, just Los Angeles and like that LA Live area that's around Staples, and the area around the Honda Center. And you're right, parking wise, way easier to park there than at Staples. But it's not totally devoid of action. There is stuff there. Like you're not in like it's not like you're at Chavez Ravine where there's literally nothing anywhere around. We went to dinner across the road at a brewery, JT Schmidt's. It was good. There's lots of kind of chains and stuff that are around where you're basically walking from one end of the parking lot back to the arena. On the other end of the parking lot, talk about not needing to worry about parking. Angel Stadium is right there. So you're never in need of a parking spot. You got outlet malls that are like 2 minutes away. You got Disneyland that's right there. And one of the spots that we actually go to is the Crystal Cathedral. Like we go check that place out where Robert Schuller did his big, Sunday services and whatnot. And the Catholic Church has bought it as, Schuller's church went to receivership. And it's just, if you're an architecture person, it's just unbelievable. It's beautiful. So there is some stuff to do around there. It's, it's not like you're going to throw the car in a parking garage and hoof it around for, 5 or 6 hours or whatever. But you're not driving for, 20, 30 minutes to find something to do or someplace to eat.
Right. Yeah, you kind of took my final point there. I was going to say, and we haven't even talked about the biggest reason that some travelers would go to Anaheim, and that was either pair it up with an Angels game or hit Disneyland. No doubt.
Definitely.
So that is our look at the Honda Center, a very worthy stadium journey. Hope to see you there on the road real soon. Cheers.
Cheers.